You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Welcome to the latest episode of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. I'm one of your hosts, Dennis, joined by
Johnny, and our guest host,
Veronica.
Veronica, do you suppose... I don't know the rest of the lyrics, that's all I know.
And, today we're looking at Snotgirl by Brian Lee O'Malley, illustrated by Leslie Hung. It was released, 2017, I think?
I think earlier than that.
2016, maybe.
I think it was like 15 or 16, because it turns to the 2017 in the comic book.
Gotcha.
There's the New Year scene.
Yeah, this is, if you don't know who Brian Lee O'Malley is, he is of Scott Pilgrim fame. This is actually his first monthly, as well as Leslie Hung. This is her first comic book series that she illustrated.
So we're reading the trade, which is covering episodes. Issues 1 through 5.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I read an interview with them, and they said
about this book,
and they said the reason why they went monthly as opposed to like just releasing a big graphic novel is that they wanted to keep, because of the nature of the social media, they wanted to keep the book always current with trends. Social media trends change, so they wanted it to evolve as social media changed with it, which actually, I mean, I feel like it's still pretty relevant. It's 2 years old.
Yeah.
Social media happens pretty fast, but
it hasn't dramatically changed in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's still talking about the grams. Nothing's kaputted. There's no MySpace mentions or
there is
Friendster.
She talks about how her old MySpace
that's right.
photo or something like that, Snotgirl herself.
That's right. Her old one that her intern looked at. Yeah, that's right. I guess we'll get into the book. Generally speaking, it's about her name's Lottie?
Lottie.
Dottie.
Lottie person, fashion blogger.
I thought that was a fake name. The last name, I kept expecting that to be like
her persona.
Or an alias. Like she's just a person kind of thing, and it never.
Well, it is a comic book, and
it is.
It is, and in fact,
Wait a
yes.
minute, this isn't based on real life.
I'm sorry, but no. But even in Scott Pilgrim, there are some really weird names like Knives Chow. Right. So I was unfazed.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be some sort of James Bond kind of play on words. I thought, I tried to say it a few times. Like, is he trying to say something?
Yeah, I thought too. I was like, Lottie person?
I should also note that this was one of the first ones that he didn't illustrate himself. Obviously, Leslie Hung illustrated it, but traditionally, Brian has illustrated his own work. So that was interesting for him to do so. He collaborated with her. I'm not sure exactly how much input Leslie Hung has. Obviously, she is in tune with fashion. So they didn't want to make it fake, right? So when she illustrates the work, she tries to pull actual relevant fashion. Johnny and I are old men, so when we look at this, we're like, this looks like space age outfits.
Yeah, there were several times where I was like, this is current fashion?
But I would say Misty Sutton, Cute Girl, her fashion seems very, I don't know, Japanese-like.
Yeah,
it's very cute. Lolita.
Or
right.
Hattori, isn't that the...
Haruka girl.
Yeah, Haruka, that's what I meant.
But I would say it's probably current, just not current for Johnny and I. Yeah, I don't know how about you, Veronica. You're pretty well.
I mean, look how I'm dressed.
Yeah, amazing. Dressed for the ball.
Since we're on that topic of age, I don't know if this book is for older readers like us. It doesn't. There's a lot in the book where I just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
I will say,
I would agree with that.
I did appreciate the translations, like when they're texting. For some old people, if you don't understand some of the text speak,
yeah, there's like the asterisks with the explanation for the acronym at the bottom.
I'm usually used to Marvel where they're like, "Shield means super secret, whatever." Yeah, they explain some of the speak. But yeah, it definitely felt, I'd say overall the book was sort of a modern millennial Sex and the City. In a comic book form?
I took it as a female blogger version of Fight Club.
Yes.
Because she's an unreliable narrator.
No, overall, the whole
is she?
arc.
That's the question, right?
Yeah, that's where.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe as well. This was had definitely a Fight Club feel
without the fighting.
Without the fighting, well,
the mental abuse.
Yeah,
that some young women will give to each other.
Yes. It was kind of sad and a little bit scary how accurate some of these things were. Yeah. I think that I can definitely identify with some of the the self-hatred and sort of the self-imposed self-hatred because of the
doubting yourself.
Yeah, how you appear in society and trying to conform to these societal norms, but also to press against them and be better than them and be an influencer.
One thing I did see in this too is that I think is relevant for younger people. Really, well, because really, I mean, it's a generational thing. I think this is much more this thing, the topic I'm about to discuss, I think impacts millennials way more than it impacts Generation X or
for sure
or baby boomers. Is the facade you present
to the world
through your social media? Like, I've got it all together, and she's even drawn differently between her real life and her photos. Like,
yes,
oh for sure.
The coloring is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's bright,
unbelievable.
vibrant. Yeah,
but not always. I mean, the scene in the bathroom, it just goes dull.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just amazing the use of color to
her hair is not as vibrant in that scene.
Right, exactly. It's almost mint instead of lime.
That limey green.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, and it's addressed in this book. She talks about it too, how a sad thing that this younger generation is having to work out of, just because you have it. Why do you present this fake front on social media when in real life you're just a complete mess, or you're doubting yourself? Maybe you have some of your life together, but you're doubting yourself dramatically. Anyway, let's get to this damn comic book.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, it starts off with introductions of the characters. You get pretty well introduced to Lottie and her core group of friends, which is Norm Girl and Cute Girl. They have regular names, but Lottie...
she is not bothered to learn them.
Yeah. And honestly, I remember being like this. If she's what, 25? I remember being like 23 and we'd had like different Brians. So we call him like Cowboy Brian, like Dorm Brian, like Pothead Brian. So we have like different kind of nicknames for people. So I remember being in this phase where it's just kind of like, you just kind of gave people nicknames as opposed to actually addressing them. But yeah, it reminded me a lot, honestly, of I've watched a lot of Sex and the City with my wife.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure you did.
Truth is, I'm not married. No.
Truth is, you watched it without her.
Yeah. But no, it reminded me of just this core group of friends. One's the more sane one, Norm Girl. One's more kind of pixie, the Cute Girl. And then, of course, there's the neurotic one, which is Snotgirl. That's not what they call her. No one calls her a nickname until later on, we find out. And then just her neurosis, she finds out her ex-boyfriend might be potentially dating some girl.
They went on a break, and it turns out she's dating someone that she deems inferior to her. She's just very plain.
Yeah.
She doesn't follow in the fashion world.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when she finds out when her birthday is, she becomes obsessed with, or what she thinks is her birthday, like obsessed. Is she younger or prettier? Finds her profile and goes, oh, good, she's just younger.
Just younger.
Yeah. When you find out the friends all flake on her, they like do like a brunch thing and
haters brunch is what they're regular. I love it. It's very.
Oh, that was such a good line. I guess the only hater at haters brunch is me.
Right.
Like, oh, it's so identifiable.
Well, her struggles are honestly, I found relatable. As crazy as her lifestyle is, I can see where you have a group of friends and you're not always on the same level as them.
Yeah.
Whether, you're struggling with things they're not, or they're, one's in a deep relationship while you're single.
And I think it's amplified with these people because they're incredibly superficial. It's about the exterior of someone. It's not about the interior. As we will find out later, the ex-boyfriend, the girl that he's dating, seems like just a sweet young woman who... Sometimes
I question that.
Well, I mean, yeah, she does get kind of revenge on her by not allowing her. She bans her from the coffee shop.
Right.
She works out. But I feel like if someone was being a shit to me like that all the time, I probably would have done the same thing. Like, fuck you, you're not coming to my coffee shop.
Well, it's one of those unreliable narrator things.
Right.
Yes.
Where I'm not sure whose perspective we're seeing, and are we seeing the honest truth
I agree.
about things.
But I think that it really makes you question what is going on, because she does end up at the same club. She goes to the same party. She works at her apparently Lottie's favorite coffee shop and serves her regular milk, and apparently she's lactose intolerant. And looking at it from Lottie's perspective, I can really see how she would think, wow, this girl is kind of acting really weird. Like, why is she here all the time? Mm-hmm. Every time something bad happens, why is she always the one that's here? You know?
Yeah. Also,
but I agree, it is an unreliable narrator, so you have to take it with a grain of salt.
For sure. And I think in some ways it's her narcissism that someone cares enough to actually want to copy me.
Right.
Like, it's like a twisted thing, like, I can't believe I have a stalker. Oh, I have a stalker.
Yeah. I don't want this, but I actually want this.
Yeah,
yes.
It's kind of like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Lottie, right? Lottie's her name, is going to her favorite coffee shop, and then she happens to run into this girl she deems Coolgirl. I forgot what her real name is. If we ever
Caroline,
Coolgirl, and who happens to like the same coffee as her.
Gets the same exact order.
Right. And they share a conversation. There's almost like this bisexual vibe that goes through it. And then...
well, I think I got a feeling like not maybe sexual attraction, but a thing where you have a crush on someone because they're so much cooler than you, even if they're the same sex.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like a man crush, like they'll say, oh, you got a man crush on that guy.
Like idolizing.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you're like enamored with the person because they're so cool or pretty or whatever, just... Like George Costanza when Elaine was dating the rock climbing guy.
All right.
Like that, where just George thought he was so cool. He tried to emulate him.
Right, exactly.
His baseball hat backwards.
So this girl is also a starting fashion blogger by coincidence, knows of Lottie's blog, seems really into Lottie and definitely wants to hang out and be friends, and is very assertive.
And it's very I was going to say, she just grabs her, Coolgirl just grabs Lottie's arm and writes her phone number down on it. Like, you're going to call me.
Right. I like how Lottie was admiring Coolgirl because she didn't have her phone and she didn't care.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that speaks a lot. But anyway,
actually, they both did that.
Okay.
So she forgot her phone. That's why she had to write the number on her arm. Mm-hmm. And Lottie's like, wow, she's just living her life. Who does that?
Right. Exactly.
And then the girls also say because she hasn't posted in a few days.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, she's so carefree about her social media presence.
So she becomes enamored. They exchange details. And then we cut to Lottie going to the doctor, not her usual doctor, to talk about her allergies. And he prescribes her with some new trial medication, which I was like, whatever. And then it wasn't until later it was like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe some of this is coming into play.
And I kept thinking the doctor, her regular doctor is, her regular doctor is on vacation or something like that. So this young male doctor's in, and I kept getting him confused with her boyfriend. And then I started thinking, well, is that on purpose? Is she confusing the two? Because they both have blonde hair. It's kind of slicked back.
I will say in this entire book, if memory serves me correctly, there aren't any real old or ugly people.
No.
So everyone from the doctor...
to the police officer that shows up later.
To the police officer, everyone is super... fashioned out and super young and attractive, which is interesting. I mean, that could be a direct art choice.
I think there's a reason behind that, is that when you're younger, you don't care or pay attention to anybody that's over a certain age. Like when I was 22 or 23, 24, 25, if like someone my age, if they weren't my boss, I didn't pay any attention to them.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the thing, right? They're attractive, so we're attracted to them,
Yeah, even the doctor, she said that he was kind of hot, but not really hot.
But not up close.
Yeah, and then you see up close his tooth, like one tooth looks like a little crooked, and
right, exactly.
That seems to be the thing that puts her off. To
I think he's got wrinkles too.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
So she has really severe allergies. She's allergic to everything, especially cat fur, which kind of comes into play later.
Totally. So then she makes a date to meet Coolgirl at a nightclub, and she pops some of her new pills, go out to this kind of, dive whiskey bar, it seems like.
Yeah, and it turns out her boyfriend is at that that club too, or the whiskey place.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then it just seems like Coolgirl just knows all the right things to say, all the right things to do. She's drinking cool whiskey, and, this isn't something that Lottie's normally used to.
And she's even a little grossed out by the place.
Right. But she's trying to not show it because she wants to be cool like Coolgirl,
Right.
which I've been there. You want to seem like you're in with the hip crowd. For a hip person, it's funny because she's seen as the hip one, but now she's kind of out of her element.
Right.
She's viewed as like a cool girl online, but I don't think she sees herself as cool.
She definitely doesn't.
And within this context, in this bar,
Right.
she's sort of out of place.
Right. She feels overdressed.
Right.
These aren't the drinks she wants. And so, yeah.
I think this scene is really interesting, actually, if we can turn back.
Yeah.
Because Coolgirl orders and points kind of inconspicuously, points to the bartender, do you have anything good, like over her shoulder, and then gives her jacket. And I just feel like on the second reading, I noticed those 2 points.
Yeah,
and
I caught the jacket, but I missed the little subtle point.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that might indicate
That they're
something
the same
more.
person.
Well, I don't know.
There's just a weird, for me at this point, I don't know how you felt, but for me, I almost was wondering if there was an ulterior motive to Coolgirl.
Yes.
Like, she's
absolutely.
way too nice. She seems too perfect. If it was like a revenge plot, this is like an actor that someone is hired to trick her into liking, and then she was going to pull the rug on her.
Or she just sees Coolgirl, sees Lottie as competition, and wants her out of the way.
Right.
In this scene, I wondered if she had the bartender drug her.
Oh, I thought it was the medication that did it. Her own medication.
Or a combination
But
of the
that
two.
makes sense if the bartender... Do we see the bartender?
We don't.
Okay. Snotty, as Coolgirl has now started calling her, Snotty goes off to the bathroom by herself and has like an emotional breakdown because her boyfriend's there, and it triggers...
Her boyfriend's there with Charlene.
Yeah. And it triggers emotions in her, and then...
she starts snotting up.
She thought she locked the door because she knew her face was about to erupt in snot and tears.
Yeah.
And that's brought up. You see her, what looks like she locked the door.
It shows it quite explicitly.
And then she thinks, I thought I locked the door.
Yeah.
So
Coolgirl walks in and...
her pills are on the ground. By the way, I would not pick up my pills if they fell on the ground.
in a bathroom.
My
in a
bathroom,
bar.
yes. A public bathroom.
Yeah, I was like, sorry, I'm just going to go to CVS Pharmacy tomorrow.
Hey, doctor, I would pick them up and put them in a separate bag to show the doctor, like, hey, I dropped these on the ground. Can I get replacements? Coolgirl is going over to console her. Snotty's down on or Lottie is down on the ground. Coolgirl slips on the pills and cracks her head, like lands face first on the ground and cracks her head and seems to be...
Honestly, I was a little confused by this a little bit because you don't actually
Me too.
see her crack her head. You just see her it's implied her feet are going towards the pills. You see her hair kind of flop.
Yeah.
And then you just see her like dead on the ground. I was like, what happened? Did she stab her? Is there like a weird medical blackout from the pills?
figured she slipped and...
Well, no, that's what's implied later. But at first, when I saw it, I was confused about what happened.
I was confused the first time too because I didn't catch this part where she had slipped on the pills.
Right.
Yeah.
So this page happens. And I'm thinking, what happened? Because here's Lottie is saying, but I really wanted for us to be friends.
Right.
And so I sort of thought that it was like, Coolgirl is like kind of pushing into Lottie's domain. She's seen her at her worst. She's developed this new like terrible nickname for her. And I sort of wondered, this is all that we see. So what really happened?
Right. And then, I don't know. How do you feel about the nickname? I know she's trying to be cute, but at this point, I feel like it's passive-aggressive mean.
She doesn't even know her.
I got the impression she was one of those people that seems cool, but as you get to know them, they're just really annoying. Like they don't know how to not always be on. And that's kind of what I got about Coolgirl is I didn't know it was going to go in this direction. I thought as the more we got to know her, you were going to find out she was like really superficial. Not that Snotty isn't, but way more. As soon as you tried to get to know her, be like, oh, let's just stay in. Like they're not even comfortable doing that because they have to be around people constantly on getting attention. Like I thought that was kind of the direction this was going to go in.
Up until this point, I thought it was going to be slice of life, just kind of, these girls trying to deal with relationships, that kind of thing. Then this happens, and then suddenly I got a real like Memento feel like after this. So she blacks out. She wakes up the next day. And
thought she had called 911. Turns out she didn't.
Not sure exactly if what the events happened last night were real or not. She basically tries to go incognito and smartly enough tries to go, I think, to a public library or something to search the news stories to see if she can find something. Yeah, which, by the way, having done something like that, not murdered someone, I should clarify. But like there was a robbery in my neighborhood one time where these guys brought in shotguns and went into the grocery store. And the day after, and for the following week, I looked for stories about this. I couldn't find a single one. I had to finally look up a police report.
Oh, geez.
But there wasn't like, they full on like home invaded this Albertsons and there wasn't a single news story.
Well, it's because it was an Albertsons.
Right. So she starts questioning reality because she can't find any news items about that.
And she doesn't hear from her for a little while.
Right.
And at this point, we're introduced to
her intern,
who turns out has gotten a job offer.
Yeah, we find out later.
Doesn't seem like she's a paid intern.
No.
Age unpaid.
Yeah. And basically runs everything for Lottie.
Which then is the first clue to me that this is actually a legit, like she's like legit. Like at first I thought it was just...
I didn't question her blog popularity. Yeah. I just questioned her sense of reality.
Oh, I thought she was just delusional. Like I run this popular fashion blog, but really no one really watches it. But now at this point, if she has enough money to, well, she's not paying an intern, but have an intern.
In I think the first chapter in No New Friends, it
mentioned the millions of followers.
Well, it says 0 messages from friends, but like 70,000 messages from strangers.
It just shows like how empty her life is. It's all superficial.
Right.
Well, part of it, why I question it is because when it talked about like engagements, it always redacted that. So I wasn't sure if they redacted it because it's actually really low.
I figured because it was part of a police report.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
Like we might be reading this afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah.
Well, we find out that Charlotte, who is dating her... Charlene is dating her ex-boyfriend, used to be her intern.
And she can't even remember that she was the intern for her.
Right.
Come to find out, boyfriend tells Snotty that she reminds me of a younger you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another thing. I was like, is this like a split personality thing where... Mm-hmm. Coolgirl's that's her blog persona. Mm-hmm. Snotty is her. And then Charlene is like her past self or the innocent self that, she would like to have back again.
Right.
Kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where he creates Mr. Hyde, who is the worst version of him. But Dr. Jekyll is not all the good parts. Dr. Jekyll is both of them. Yeah. So I think that would be that like split personality where Coolgirl is who she wants to be. Charlene is who she is, but then she's sort of got to grapple with these two things within herself.
So much insight here.
I know. That's why we have guest hosts. Because we would just go, it's green.
Yeah, there's some green hair, and then there's some texting.
Anyway, she ends up having another, like a week later, haters brunch finally with her friends. And they actually mention that they know of this new blogger.
Yeah.
So this is a clue in where, okay, at least to me, it's like, this really happened. Like, I was questioning if she met her. Like, it keeps going back and forth. But now this person actually exists.
Well, I would say yes. I think that there is a person named Caroline who does fashion blogging. Mm-hmm. I'm still not convinced that she has ever met her.
Right.
That Lottie has met her.
Snotgirl is like in the blackout or when she's not aware is doing the blog. But just...
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, given how obsessive Snotgirl is to look at rivals, so to speak, she very much could have run into this person and then taken the drugs with the alcohol and imagined this relationship and meeting, etc. Because, her friends are baffled that she doesn't know about this blogger. Apparently, she keeps tabs on all her competition.
Right. To
an obsessive, like, what I think is what they call serial killer level.
Yeah. But that's not how she was introduced to Caroline. She just happened to meet her, but she didn't necessarily find her blog.
Well, that's what Snotgirl is saying how she met Caroline.
It's like kismet. It's not.
Right. Yeah. That's. Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of coincidences, so we're not even sure if that really happened.
Yeah.
At least at this point, like I'm questioning.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right.
fair.
They find out that Charlene is working at the coffee shop she likes to go to. Snotgirl likes to go to. So her and Cute Girl are going to go do reconnaissance. And
I love this scene, actually.
Yeah, I like this part because Snotgirl, who chews out kind of Cute Girl for not dressing inconspicuously. Like, she's got this dress that has like limes for pockets. Like, they're sewn to look like limes and lemons.
Lolita sunglasses.
Harajuku, is that the word? Harajuku?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
It's whatever Gwen Stefani was into.
I think that's Harajuku.
Lottie, who Cute Girl calls her out on this, is like, I dressed inconspicuously, and Cute Girl's like, you are wearing your own clothing line. Plus, she's got bright green hair pulled through. It's like, you're not inconspicuous. You totally stick out.
And she's a 5'7" woman who's wearing a sports bra and leggings.
Yeah.
So
with her midriff completely shown.
Right.
Although I thought it was funny because if you ever watch any of the Captain America films, I think Winter Soldier and Civil War, and maybe one more, when they go undercover, like they're trying to blend in with the crowd.
Hats.
It's a baseball hat. So this is basically you're totally built out, handsome dude. Everyone's gonna recognize who you are.
That is sort of like standard incognito uniform.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like Snotgirl is adhering to those rules of the comic book.
She thinks.
Yeah.
Fictional inconspicuousness.
But yeah, I like how Cute Girl like calls out Lottie because saying, I think you're just jealous because, I look
super cute.
Maybe if you wore something cute, people would take pictures of you too.
But the whole point is that she doesn't want anyone to notice her, so I thought that was pretty funny.
This is probably one of my favorite outfits too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have Natalie from Agent Ribbons.
Totally.
Could wear
oh my God,
like
that is Natalie. Wow, that really is her. Yeah, so they end up going to the coffee shop. Cute Girl did not, by the way, inform Snotgirl that Charlene actually worked at the coffee shop. I think it was implied that she was going to be there.
Yeah.
She grabs her coffee and then runs into her boyfriend, Sunny Day. Yeah, once again, these great names. And so he goes, like, I thought you were giving up coffee. And then she cries because she hates the fact that he remembers such a small detail and that he cares. And she's trying to like give up. And I don't know. I really felt for her at this time period.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's really interesting that the whole page goes green during this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I guess I thought like green with envy. I don't know if it was sort of like green because she's Snotgirl, she has green hair, and if it was sort of like a self-obsessed kind of a scene.
Both.
Like,
it probably is both.
Yeah, probably. But I thought it was more of an envy.
From her snot just coming out.
Was that? Was
Thank
she
you,
starts to
Dennis.
get upset and like hawks a loogie in front of.
Not cute.
Girl. Yeah, she's like, wow, not cute. Like, I don't know. It cracked me up.
So they cut back to Cute Girl's apartment, which is appropriately super
It's so cute.
Super cute, super anime. And they go through some old pictures of Snotgirl, and Cute Girl points out, like you mentioned before, Johnny, that Charlene is basically looking very similar to what Snotgirl used to look like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Natural hair.
With that, like, side braid.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that.
Same
point.
hairstyle.
I mean, at this point, Snotgirl seems pretty dead set on the fact that Charlene's trying to single white female on her and just basically co-opt her life. Buy her clothes, get her boyfriend, get her younger look and everything like that.
And then at this point, Lottie gets a text from Coolgirl, who she has on her phone as Coolgirl. And she's instantly paranoid, like,
right,
who's doing this?
How's this possible?
How's this possible? And then the next page, we're introduced to Johnny Cho.
Yeah, Detective John Cho, which this was a little weird for me because it was like, I was like, why are we suddenly doing the police?
Yeah.
And then it seemed like a real Hollywood cop.
Yes, yeah.
Because like not everyone, like there's no ugly people. Even his partner, they're all like handsome.
And there's like extremely fashionably dressed women in the department. Like one's wearing like a black cocktail dress.
Right.
A knockoff Vera Wang dress.
I was like, and that's when I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this like play cops? Like,
and we find out like he was going to fashion school, but his dad really wanted him to be a cop.
Right.
And so
his dying wish was to be a cop.
But then it turns out he didn't die.
Yeah.
But he became a cop anyway.
Which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I did like that part where like the girls try to get him to like identify if something's fake or real. And apparently he's such a good fashion expert that he can spot an imitation outfit from a mile away or what have you.
I actually didn't like this scene a lot because I feel like this woman, he's cute like a puppy dog, a little baby, was really condescending.
So I'm
it was
confused
weird.
by
It was
that.
such a like juxtaposition where I thought like, oh, they're so into him, and then there was like this scene on the other page where it's like, oh, I don't know if do they even respect him?
I was questioning that too, because later on the partner seems to imply like, why don't you ask one of these girls out? You know, I don't have time for that or something like that. But exactly your point, Veronica, I was questioning because it almost seemed like, didn't they say something about he's not really hot? He's just cute. Right.
Because she says, man, what a cutie. You think he's hot? No, cute like a puppy dog.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, I wonder if he has sex. Like, I'm not entirely sure if they're into him or...
Yeah.
It was really confusing.
It was really confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing. But then you get the impression that he's investigating a murder. And he says, person of interest is female, 26, 5'7", tells people she's 5'9". And if I had to guess her occupation, I would say fashion blogger, and it's Lottie person. And you're like, oh, shit.
So maybe she really did.
Coolgirl really die, or did somebody else die?
Right.
In that bathroom, and she just thought it was Coolgirl?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or is the text a hallucination somehow, or something like that? Yeah.
Because, there's something unreliable about what just happened with the character of John Cho. When he's introduced, you're like...
Well, I questioned his motives because of something that happens later on, so maybe we should keep going.
Yeah, and how his character, the story ends for him, I was like, what the fuck? It just ends.
It's 2 pages.
Yeah.
3. It's 3 pages.
Well, he shows up later, and it seems like he's got her, and there's all of a sudden it just flips to a new reality. Like, there's a whole new... story. You're like, what?
It turns out that I think Normie Girl is it Norm?
Yeah, Norm Girl.
Norm Girl is having an engagement party, and so she's invited her friends. So Lottie gets dressed up along with her intern. They head to the party. Unfortunately, Cute Girl is wearing the same dress. They both got like free dresses from the same person, it seems.
Yeah.
And so now they're twinning it, and obviously Snotgirl's kind of upset because Cute Girl's going like, who wore it best?
Well, and it seems to be a little bit of another thing where I'm like, is this another split personality? Because Cute Girl doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Like, she's like, oh, look at us, dude. You know, we're twins, whatever. And Snotgirl, Lottie, seems to be really hypersensitive to the fact that somebody else is wearing something. So at one point I was like, okay, she is a fashion person. I know it's supposed to be a faux pas. You are wearing an outfit and another woman shows up in the same outfit. It's supposed to be a faux pas, you know, whatever. And I thought, oh, well, is this another part of her where...
I don't know.
Mean is whatever her name is? Cute Girl.
Is that another part of her? Whereas like Normal Girl is Normal Girl, what she wishes her and her boyfriend had, like the course that they went. But then I was like, no, because... there's a whole giant fucking party there.
Right.
Yeah.
Her intern's there. She's aware of what's going on.
Right.
Like,
I would definitely say that maybe I think you're onto something here. She sees them as like what she wants. You know what I mean? So cool girl is like the cool blogger that she wants to be, and Norm Girl has the
cool. Whereas
effortlessly cool.
Snotty is a lot of effort.
Tries. Right. Everything is on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, Cute Girl is like totally fine with everything and just wants the pictures and the views up
life
on
too, it seems like.
Right.
Travel.
Yeah. And then Norm Girl has the relationship that Lottie wants. It's just sort of like she just sees these like very narrow aspects of these people that she like idolizes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how the nicknames come about. It's not so much they're not necessarily fictional in her head, but you're right, Veronica, where or
the nicknames are literally what she wants to be.
Right, exactly.
Right. I mean, Lottie is very jealous throughout, the whole...
The green. Like, she's Snot Girl, but not because of her snot, but because of her envy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snot Girl runs into, once again, another hot guy who I guess flirts with her.
Hot person.
Yeah, hot person at the chip dip.
Yep.
His first flirting...
He was so weird.
The first time he flirts, I took it as her being, like, so egotistical.
That's what I thought.
That she thought he was applying, but then... was hitting on her. But later, he really does.
Well, he explicitly says, like, you're foxy as hell.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, like, it's like,
which I guess could just be a compliment, but I don't know.
No, but that's not... I would never like. It turns out this is normal girls.
That's actually how Johnny and I. You said that to me.
Actually, I just had a thought. So this guy actually does explicitly come onto her, but I just remember that the doctor does the same thing.
Oh yeah,
remember?
But the doctor and this guy and her ex-boyfriend all look very similar.
Yeah,
none of them have dark hair. They're all blondes.
They're Ken dolls.
It's kind of swept back.
Yeah. The boyfriend also like hits on her again, doesn't?
Yeah,
he?
Like it's very. Sometimes you could tell he's just being a friend, and other times he's definitely hitting on her.
Yeah.
When she calls him on it, he's like, "You out of your mind? We're friends, or like he'll."
Right. Well, it turns out the hot chip dip guy, Ashley, is actually Normie's fiance.
Yeah.
So that's a shocking reveal. Snotgirl then goes by the pool. I think she's kind of distraught. She sees Charlene just taking a basic selfie and then confronts her for what she believes is the single white female co-op of her lifestyle and life. Charlene seems like oblivious to it all. Now, at this point, I wasn't sure who to rely on. Is Charlene such a sociopath that she's planning all of this and acting innocent? Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm just
super manipulative.
Right.
I was kind of put off by this scene because you do kind of have that where she's like, well, you sold your dress. I'm not like,
right.
This is my dress now and I'm going to wear it. But then there's the scene here on this page. Oh, by the way, I saw you at the bar.
Right.
And you went into the bathroom with that girl. And she even says, I know what you did.
Right.
And then Lottie stops listening. So we have no idea what she was even going to say.
And then
she goes, I saw how you two wah, 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 wah.
Right.
Well, and then certain panels are like, it fades from green to red to just red. And I'm not sure if that's like anger or what's going on.
I think so. Because she's shouting in this frame here. She's shouting at her.
I'm not sure, once again, it's because she's an unreliable narrator, if she's interpreting what Charlene is saying, but seeing a sinister angle to it. When Charlene is just trying like, oh, but, I just bought this dress. I didn't even, I didn't think about copying you.
I would say that if I were in this situation, somebody yelled at me for a dress that I was wearing, I wouldn't continue the conversation. I would be done with the conversation. I would have no room for any chit chat like, oh, by the way, I saw you at the bar. Mm-hmm. We should hang out at the bar after you just berated me.
Mm-hmm. Well, she also could just be the type where she doesn't like confrontation. So, I mean, she was her intern. So it's possible that she just doesn't want, she tries to change the subject.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
It's hard to say. It's like, because of everything, you're not sure if she's being a bitch or she's like just innocently trying to change the conversation and
she's not coy about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Lottie winds up pushing her in the pool, pushes Charlene into the pool and loses her shit, and her intern tries to calm her down. And
I was afraid she was going to drown, frankly.
Oh, really? I didn't think that.
Swim.
You didn't think she could swim?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I was like, her friends aren't good friends, because if I had a friend who broke up with his girlfriend and we had an engagement party and I was friends with them first, I wouldn't invite the girlfriend to the thing. I would just be like, sorry. I would call and be like, hey, I'm really sorry. We're having an engagement party, but I've known so-and-so longer and I know they would be uncomfortable with you there, so I'm really sorry,
You've forgotten one important detail.
What's that?
Sunny is a photographer.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I'm sure that's why she wants him around. But
still, I still wouldn't hire her.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the point, right? Is they're not really friends.
No, they're not. Yeah, that's the thing.
She wants to keep her contacts.
Right.
It's weird. Sunny seems angry, but not really angry. Like he's wondering, well, why did you push her in? But he's not screaming at her.
He also leaves her in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he says it right here, damn it, Lottie, you're better than this, or at least I thought you were. He's just like completely, he's so disappointed in her. What's the point of me yelling at you? You're not even, I'm so disappointed. I can't even yell at you.
Well, while Charlene is still flapping.
She's still in the pool.
So I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah.
Like, are you really into this girl?
If I was the girlfriend, I would have been pissed.
Right. And I think the friends
very weird.
thought maybe he's just into Charlene because she looks like a younger.
Or they're just hanging out and it's innocent, you know?
So she
runs off.
She's having like an extreme emotional breakdown, and sure enough, Coolgirl calls her.
Right, who happens to be at this
She's
party.
like, hold on, I'm at a really loud place, and Coolgirl's like, oh, I am too. Let me get to a quieter spot. And she's like,
shows
Coolgirl
up.
turns out kind of like she's messing with her, like she knew they were both at the same party.
Yeah, I mean, there's arrows on the chair directing Lottie where to go. I think this scene is so creepy, which is funny because it's so pretty. Like this color, this really pinky purple.
Lavender-ish.
Yeah. It's so pretty and sweet and kind of like romantic. And then also, I just felt like it was really creepy.
Well, it gets
that
creepy.
It was like pointing her to...
Right, to a room.
Yeah.
And yeah, at this point, then I'm starting to question Coolgirl's motives, if she's real, or what the heck's going on.
Right.
Because that's a way big coincidence, since none of those girls should know Coolgirl.
Yeah. And nobody said, like, hey, remember that blogger I was telling you about? She's going to be here tonight? Or
yeah, I feel like that would have been a huge...
Okay, so then my perception of what is real in this world gets turned again because super hot fiance is naked. They open up the door and super hot fiance is in the bathroom naked, apparently with an erection. And
oh yeah, it's pixeled out. I didn't notice that.
And he mentions like, "Oh, you brought someone." So if she had just opened the door and he kind of just mentioned her, you know, like Sixth Sense kind of thing, where he's not really talking about the other person, you just assume he means both of them, but he mentions that
there are two people
there. So I was like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I think maybe that was like normal girl and was supposed to bring somebody. I don't know. Then this is where I got confused was all of a sudden Lottie is making out with the detective. But then I was like, oh, that's his dream. He's dreaming of it.
So now you're seeing,
so this is what creeps me out about the detective.
Right.
And I feel like I see this all the time in Lottie's life and maybe this is just her narcissism and this is because the comic is from her point of view, but I feel like there are a lot of creeps and, you know, we've talked about like incels and stuff like that and people can be creepy, you know?
Yeah.
And
especially people with power.
Right.
They can abuse that power, which it seems like he's doing. He's tracking her down.
And the doctor, like you mentioned, was hitting on her.
Exactly.
Super inappropriate.
I didn't think the doctor was hitting on her.
Oh no,
I think that
100%.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if this. It was later where she goes back for the checkup.
Yeah,
so it's later.
No.
The first time, no.
So it's clear that the detective, you should see him at work and he's following up on the case, but his motives do not seem to be like, I'm going to find a murderer.
Yes and no, because it seems like that, but then later he calls her on the murder,
right?
Or the
pills,
a
right?
crime,
the
like
pills,
some sort of crime that happened. But he seems to be more obsessed with her social media standing than her actual her as a person. Like she's got 2 million followers.
Right.
Like that's more important to him than she seems like a really good person.
Right.
You know, it's status over substance.
So then we cut to the scene where it seems like it explains what's real because we cut to Caroline
explaining to
Snotgirl that basically she was in a pool
I did
of
hit
blood.
my head.
Yeah, and then I got up and everything like that.
And you were gone and...
Well, she doesn't even admit that she's seen Lottie. She just says, I went to the bathroom and you weren't there and I fell or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is.
And it seems like Charlene was trying to tell her a different story.
Right.
Like you were with someone else and then she
the super
just
hot
blanks
girl,
out.
right.
Yeah.
And then I would think... You know, makeup does amazing things, but I would think if you had that kind of gash on your head, there would be some kind of mark. Yeah. Well, it gets weirder as we progress. They have a conversation. It almost seems like Coolgirl's berating her, and this is and really digging into her. And then I'm starting to think, is this real? Because this seems like this isn't like the person that you met before who you thought was into you. Now this is a person who's like calling you out, and trying to destroy you.
Yeah, this is the scene where I really questioned Caroline and what her motives were. Right.
Someone was with Snotgirl because the fiance said, "Oh, you brought a friend," so somebody else was there with them. Cut to Snotgirl being at her doctor's office.
Right. Mentions he's asking if there's any side effects. Have you been drinking alcohol? That kind of stuff, right?
This is where I'm like, is it her ego that thinks that he's hitting on her?
But then he clearly says, at least in her head, when she says, I pushed a girl in the pool, he says,
I'm sorry, that sounds hot.
Which is super
inappropriate.
Ew. And the way that they frame
with him so close to her.
Right.
Yeah.
And doesn't she say, is it this part where she's like, can I put my shirt back on?
Yes.
So then it cuts to
he gives her another pill to take with that pill.
Right.
Yeah, isn't it just a regular over-the-counter allergy pill?
Yeah.
It cuts to another one of Normie Girl's parties, right? Sunny happens to be there. And then they talk about how Charlene is doing. And he doesn't really seem to care about her.
Right. Well, even I think at this point, Lottie finally starts to understand, like, because Norm Girl doesn't really care about the incident. You know what I mean? As long as both people show up to the party.
So she leaves the party and outside
she runs into the detective.
Yeah, Detective Cho.
It was just a weird interaction. The scene, he didn't seem like he was really grilling her. Maybe he was trying to play tricky with her.
At first he seems like he's flirting with her, and she seems to be a little into it because he's like stoking her ego.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, well, anyway, I'm here for a reason. I've got something for you.
And he hands her the bloody pills.
The bloody pills, yeah.
But then it ends. And then next day she's doing a photo shoot. So you're like, well, where did that?
Yeah. What? It doesn't, there's no other reference to it. It's like nothing happened.
Right. So that's why it seemed almost like he just gave her the pills as opposed to like.
Or did she hallucinate it?
Right.
Is John Cho, the detective, a figment of her imagination?
Or maybe it's just playing with time a little bit. Maybe these are more in the past than this last chapter is.
I don't know.
Maybe her final photo shoot is her mugshots.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
So she takes the photographer, who she doesn't even know her age, doesn't care.
Like a magazine wants to do a photo shoot with her, with Coolgirl.
Or Robo-Girl is the name of the photographer.
And she calls her Robo-Girl because
she has no personality.
Well, I think she's completely bored with Snotgirl. Like she has no interest in her. So she calls her a Robo-Girl because she's not into her. Nothing of her gleam and shine has any interest to this girl.
Right. And this photographer probably feels the same way about her. Like, oh, it's just another manufactured, fashion blogger. Okay, so this is weird. She goes to the coffee shop that she knows Charlene works at.
Right.
This seemed antagonistic to me.
Yeah.
And they refuse to serve her because there's a big sign that says banned, and it's her name, Lottie.
Charlene's kind of hiding in the corner.
So what was her motivation, you think, then, to say, like, well, I'm doing this photo shoot, and look, here's this photographer.
Like to show, like, look how
to show off or something.
My life is. Like, you might
maybe that's my question.
Yeah.
Or she's so oblivious that she wouldn't think.
I think it was antagonistic. I don't think there was obliviousness. I think it was to antagonize.
She is pretty oblivious, though. I mean, she didn't even remember that was her intern, which I may or may not believe.
So then we cut to a New Year's Eve party.
This is a little bit drastic. I will say that the pacing for this between the two scenes was drastic because it cuts to New Year's Eve. So obviously, a little bit of time has passed. But then we're almost immediately introduced to a drunk Charlene who calls over Lottie. So from hiding behind a coffee maker to like calling her over was a little bit of a, jarring transition for me. And then she basically flashes her panties in the middle of this party and it shows, look, I'm wearing your underwear.
Right.
And then I thought it was kind of funny that she had to explain that's not like people were like, oh, she's wearing your underwear.
Well, and
I don't put my name on my underwear. It was
Cute Girl calls her out on it. Like, oh, she's wearing your underwear. She's like, no, they're the line that Nike commissioned me to do.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if this is just her narcissism or if this is really as weird as it appears to be. So is it just that Charlene is drunk and she's just being a little silly and doesn't kind of know exactly what she's doing? Or is it more creepy? The first time I read this, I was like, this is so gross. Like, Charlene is weird.
Well, especially Charlene is afraid of Snotgirl because of the whole incident.
Apparently so.
But then for her to drink and then approach her like that seems weird. Like,
yeah, but when you're drunk, you lose your inhibitions.
I would think she would get angry then.
Right. Why wouldn't she?
Like, fuck you. You pushed me in the pool. That wasn't cool. That's what the attitude I would expect.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, look at me. We're friends.
Look, I've bought more of your clothing.
Right. And then, of course, Cute Girl's there wearing some sort of weird fashionista cape that apparently has a lot of cat hair on it. Yeah. From her trip to Tokyo.
Yeah, and that plays in later, a little later. She runs into her ex-boyfriend. And
Sunny's there again.
Can we also pause here? This is the first time that she doesn't have an allergy attack.
Yeah, okay, so it does play in right there. Yeah, she's like, oh, so the medications must be working.
Right.
I'm over it. Because, Cute Girl she's wearing a blanket, I don't know, a cape or whatever.
Yeah.
That she had worn when she was in Japan, and she mentions all this dander and dust is flying off it, and then she mentions, oh yeah, my host in Japan had a cat, and this thing's covered in cat fur.
Yeah. Well, in previous scenes, it kind of sounded like maybe she was kind of like...
She was at a cat cafe. But there's a really weird look. So when Snotgirl goes, hey, I'm not allergic or there's nothing happening, if you look at what Cute Girl's reaction is, it's really weird. Like,
oh my God, I didn't even notice that.
Like she goes, so it's pointed out. And she almost looks like she's like, oh, I thought this would work.
Yeah.
It's like really bizarre. Like this is the first time I actually felt something nefarious from Cute Girl.
Like they were all conspiring to mess with her.
Yeah.
It could be her paranoia.
Right.
Yeah.
So then she runs back into her ex, and Sunny, and he gives her a box that looks like a proposal ring would be in it.
Mm-hmm. And just at that moment, guess who comes in?
Yeah. Cool Girl.
Cool Girl. Now, it seems like he acknowledges her, but she pulls her away and takes her to the bathroom so they can have a discussion. She calls her snotty and all that.
Yeah.
Which Cool Girl,
who acknowledges her?
I thought the boyfriend seemed to...
Sunny doesn't say anything.
He just blushes.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Snotty finally confronts Cool Girl and says, I don't like that.
And the mirror cracks for some inexplicable reason.
That's what I don't understand. Was there a hand punch? Well, no one's hands hurt.
Hold on. Let's go back to that a little bit, because it seems like at first they're talking to each other side by side. Mm-hmm. But right before the mirror cracks, it looks like they're on opposite sides of the mirror. Like one might be the reflection of the other. Mm-hmm. And that's because they both have the light shimmer that would be hitting the mirror is covering both of them.
Like maybe the facade is cracking and she's kind of seeing through. Yeah,
she's like, well, at one point she goes, you lied to my face, Caroline, who is Cool Girl. I know about the pills and the blood, and then crack, the mirror shatters. They both say, what was, or Cool Girl's like applying makeup.
Yeah, she seems pretty unfazed.
And Cool Girl's like, what was that?
Right. So that's a really, I'm not sure what the heck is happening here.
Well, I seem to remember there were a lot of things that Lottie was saying that kind of made it sound like she was looking at things in a better way, you know? Mm-hmm. Like this, I think pretty recently before this, she had talked about how Sunny maybe wasn't such a great boyfriend. Yeah, and she kind of feels bad for Charlene. I don't know if that's imminent or what. She kind of
realizes her friends are superficial.
Right. She's getting a bit of clarity.
Right, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool Girl does seem to be coming onto her. She's like, remember how you told me you'd only ever kissed one person? And she's like, yeah. And then it close up on Cool Girl's mouth. Maybe tonight's your night. It's New Year's Eve, babe.
But then she cuts her down, though.
And then takes off saying, well, I'm sure there's someone at this party you haven't alienated yet.
Yeah, that's not a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
No.
That's something you say when you want to dig into someone more.
Yeah.
Right.
Snotgirl goes out to a balcony where there's a caution line.
Like, okay, it's New Year's Eve. What kind of fucking place is just going to have tape? There's drunks everywhere.
Yeah.
You think that you're just some tape and a little sign is going to be okay? Anyway.
And this is where these two, Charlene and Snotgirl, kind of have a breakthrough on understanding each other. And Charlene's telling her, like, I've tried to do everything you've done. I've been following your blog since I was in high school. And you seem so unhappy. So what have I been following? Like, I'm unhappy because I've been following you.
So it seemed like she was trying to copy her, but not to be like...
To find happiness.
Right. Hoping that she hates herself. She hates her shell.
Charlene hates herself. Yeah.
Right. So she's hoping that by emulating Snotgirl and seeing how awesome she is.
Who also hates herself.
Right. But she didn't realize that.
Yeah. Right.
That basically her lifestyle...
You did follow her path to unhappiness. So they're sitting side by side with each other, and it's the countdown to New Year's Eve begins. As soon as it hits 1, Charlene kisses Snotgirl
Right.
on the mouth.
And she apologizes, you know.
Well, she pushes her away.
Right.
Charlene is pushed away by Snotgirl, and she's kind of encouraged, like, "What are you doing?" And Charlene says, "I don't know. I thought there was a vibe. Yeah, a Happy New Year vibe, not a kissing me with tongue vibe." And then Charlene says, and she's, you know, blushing. "I'm totally sorry. I'm totally out of it right now. I'm like so drunk," which is, you know, the kind of the cop out. But she wasn't.
But she was drinking. She was flashing her panties.
I kind of believe her in this. Yeah. And there was, I mean, the frames definitely kind of create a vibe where, you know, she puts her hand on her shoulder. Right.
You know, she was feeling emotionally vulnerable. Yeah. I felt like
they were both like opening up to each other.
And at that moment, Coolgirl shows up.
Okay, then this is where it gets really weird. So then basically Coolgirl's like, "Let's not fight." And then Charlene points out that's not normal. And Coolgirl is clearly bleeding from her head where her wound was before.
I see, here is where I got the impression that Charlene and Coolgirl and Snotgirl are the same person, and she was probably having a conversation out loud, answering herself. Mm-hmm. And that's where
probably
she's like,
looking in the mirror.
Well, now the three of them are out on the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I mean, I'm talking about like flashing back to the scene in the bathroom where she slips on the pills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she probably herself slipped. She tripped on her own pills.
Or maybe she punched the mirror, and then the moment that the mirror cracks when she's talking to Coolgirl, when she says, "Don't call me snotty," and the mirror cracks, maybe that was like a callback to that.
I think that was her sanity cracking. Like, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Ultimately cracking. So... But my point is, I think Charlene is seeing the barrier between Coolgirl and Snotgirl no longer existing. She's talking to herself. And that's when Charlene's like, "That's not normal." And it's probably in a different voice.
But here's the problem. So is Charlene's real in this scenario?
Charlene's real. And I think she's seeing...
So here's the problem. Snotgirl's been talking with her. They've been having a heart-to-heart. They just kissed. If Snotgirl's really bleeding from the head because she had this self-conversation and he maybe smacked her head in the mirror, then Charlene should have noticed during that conversation, during the kiss, that Snotgirl was bleeding through the head. Like if Snotgirl and Coolgirl are actually one person, and in fact Snotgirl is bleeding in the head, I would think Charlene would have noticed this beforehand.
Well, no, it doesn't show up until then. As they're talking...
Then her head suddenly
her
bleeding
blood
out.
starts. Yeah, when Coolgirl shows up, there's no blood coming out of her forehead.
Right,
but all of a sudden it starts bleeding.
Right. So if Charlene's pointing out that, hey, that's not normal, you're bleeding.
No, she's not pointing that out. My point is, she's pointing out you're talking in two different voices.
But then Charlene says, you know, "Lottie, that night at the bar, I went to the bathroom after you left, and there was blood everywhere. Her blood."
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a...
Notice she didn't say body, though.
Yeah.
She just said blood. There wasn't like, there was a dead body, which there should have been some kind of dead body. And she said her blood, not your blood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really confusing right now. I don't know what...
Yeah, it's super confusing, yeah. And she's also not talking to Caroline. She's only talking to Lottie.
Yeah. Charlene gets a little close to the edge and stumbles off over it. And you see Snotgirl reach out, and it looks like Coolgirl is maybe whispering in her ear, or I'm not sure. You don't hear, there's no dialogue. It looks like she's reaching out. Is it to grab her or to shove her? But the next panel on the last page is she's gone.
Right.
Charlene has fallen over the edge.
So the hand that shoved her has blood on it. So that seems to imply that it's Coolgirl's because she had touched her forehead.
Well, not necessarily, because when Coolgirl went to hug Lottie, she smeared blood on her face. And so Lottie is like wiping the blood off her face here. And then...
There's a bloody hand pushing, but the blood is on...
It's also on the wrong hand. Yeah.
It's on the back of the hand. Yeah, it's the right hand. Lottie...
reaches with her left
reaching
hand.
with her left hand, and there's no blood on it.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Does the right hand not know what the left hand's doing, kind of thing?
I mean, who knows how far this drop is? It seems like it would be a bad drop, but it could just be like, oh,
story.
Yeah,
it was built on a hill.
Right. Exactly.
So
yeah, but I mean, if you fell from, if this is like a pool, which is what I assumed that it was. This was an empty pool.
Oh.
If it was a pool, it could have been 12 feet.
Oh yeah, 6 feet. onto hard concrete.
Yeah.
Fuck you up.
If you fell like the way that she fell, which is just completely backwards.
You don't know. She could have ninja training of some sort, acrobatic training.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed on the way down. She's righting herself. What do you think, Veronica?
Very, very confusing.
Yeah.
I would be interested to find out what happens next, but I feel like there were a lot of questions. I think the thing that I liked most about this is just how relatable it was in terms of what it really is to be a girl and to be young and to have a social media presence and care about it. I thought it was so accurate. It was gross, but there were so many questions.
Definitely not answered. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it sets up a lot of things, but it doesn't really tie up any knots.
Yeah.
I liked it. It didn't go where I thought it was going to go. Like I said before, I thought this was going to be Sex and the City updated. The murder mystery and everything intrigued me. Normally, I hate when they leave too many loose ends, but I felt like they were setting up a lot. I got a real, like I said, Memento, Mulholland Drive kind of feel to this whole thing. And so I was digging a lot of that in the mystery and the fact that they were playing with what your perception was. In some ways, like I pointed out before, it kind of annoyed me that there were no regular ugly people, but maybe that's a whole filter that's on her life.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you said, Johnny, like maybe all those people are just invisible and only attractive or semi-attractive people are visible to her.
Yeah.
And it's very possible.
There are a lot of gray crowds, rather, where they're at a club and it's just sort of like blobs
Right.
of people.
And then, I thought the narrative was actually pretty accurate. I liked one line. They were talking about how, I think she's 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where she talks about how she thought she'd be an adult by now.
Yeah.
And like...
I remember that feeling.
I think that's common for that age. You're like, I'm 23 now. I'm an adult.
You assume by 18 you're an adult. On that end, I really like the narrative. And the murder mystery has me intrigued. And I know Johnny's heard me complain before about other stories where they try to set up a mystery and they try to hide things, and I get annoyed by it. This one, I'm actually intrigued. I like that they're playing with, is this real? Is it not real? What really happened? Unreliable narrator, which is extremely hard to do in a comic book form. In a movie, it's easy to play with time and perspective. You can have characters ignore other characters, but when you have dialogue and such, it's kind of hard to do that. So I feel like for a graphic novel form, this plays with that pretty well.
Well, where can people follow the podcast there, Dennis?
At GN Explorers Club, both on Insta, the Grams, and also Twitter.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.